I reached Masters 405 LP mid lane, Comet WMAX Graves. But I've played QMax, I've played DMAT, I've played Ghost, I've played Roaming. Like, Graves in the jungle is objectively better than Graves mid, but it's not good as a blind pick. Graves is a counter pick champ. Graves has never been a good blind pick, or at least not in a while. If the comp allows him to be a blind pick champ, sure. But, like, you don't just pick Graves and be like, man, I'm going to take over this game. Because then they play tanks, and they play bruisers, and you don't win. The champ is irrelevant. Play a better champ. You play Graves because you like Graves. You don't play him because he's good. Champ just doesn't offer anything but damage. And if your team can't offer you anything, well, you're useless. This game should be so much fucking easier. No gimmicky win wall, no bullshit fucking double clone, no cancer, no fucking terminal illness, none of this bullshit. I can kill mid lane, jungle, AD carry, support, and not get clowned out of my mind. This is an actual, like, pretty okay looking game. Although going ADTF against Cassiopeia is pretty garbage.
A sight for scurvied eyes.
Speaking of blind picks, how can I know what champions can be blind picked?
Ones that cover everything and have usefulness every game. Twisted Fate can be played in pretty much every game. Like, the exclusion of last game, having a win wall, having, like, very specific things that you can't target, like invulnerability, sure, that will cuck you, but you still have a click on stun. Your click on stun is pretty valuable. It just takes very specific champs. If you can know the champions, you're good. Like, if your character has something to offer every game and is consistent, you can basically blind pick him, right? Like, Twisted Fate is not a matchup champion. He has no need to be a matchup champion. Hang on. So, like, you blind picking Twisted Fate mid, it's not that you have to deal with the matchup, because your champion isn't designed to fight matchups, right? As an example, say you want to blind pick GP mid every game. Well, you're going to get some good matchups, and you're going to get some completely unplayable matchups. So you pick GP mid against Victor, unplayable. GP mid against Azir, unplayable. These champs aren't that popular, but I'm just saying, right? And so you put yourself in a position where you physically can't do anything. You can't, like, what Gangplank wants to do is dominate lane phase, right? GP wants to dominate the lane. If you're picking Gangplank into a lane he can't dominate, you're not providing the team anything. At that point, you're just saying, okay, team, go even. You have to go even, because if you lose, I don't have a solo lead. I can't gain a lead off of someone I can't win lane against, so I'm 50-50ing my lane while you're losing your lane, right? I'm not providing anything to the team. Whereas, say you pick someone like Twisted Fate, even if the matchup is bad, you can still ult for them. You can do things. You can wave clear and move, right? It just depends on the character. And just understanding what they're actually good at versus what they're not good at. Like, Twisted Fate's a mid champ, first of all. He should always be better than GP mid, period. In every scenario, pretty much. Or most of them. Most of the non-niche weird scenarios. I gotta stop red carding. Blind picking champions typically means they can cover a lot of problems, and they're not very, it's not as, like, super punishing. Twisted Fate, thankfully, is more so punished by abilities, not so much champions. Like, if Yasuo didn't have the win wall, TF would be really good against Yasuo. But since TF has to deal with the win wall, Twisted Fate can't play the game, right? Twisted Fate against untargetable champs. What do I want to do as TF? I want to stun you. What can't I do as TF if you have an untargetable ability? Well, I can't stun you, right? Like, typically, it's very specific things that fuck you royally. Very specific, like, 1 to 2 items or abilities in a game that just ruin Twisted Fate. I can't do this. I'm AD. It's about how can I be the most relevant and useful to my team in my specific role and my matchup.
This'll do for now.
I have this idea for Graves. What if his ult shreds armor for every enemy hit by the collision? That way you can use the ult as an engager versus tanks.
Mine is, why doesn't his shotgun just shred armor? Why can't I hit you with all my pellets and have you die? If I hit you with all 4 pellets or all 6 pellets, it should do armor. It should do armor pen. If I don't hit you with all the pellets, it won't do that. I think that makes a little bit more sense. Like, be rewarded for being in their face, right? Don't be rewarded for fucking sitting back and autoing. Graves wants to get in your face and auto you point blank. He wants to hit you with every pellet. Like, Graves is... You know, honestly, for Graves mid, you know what I was thinking to myself? I'm like, to basically never fall off, first item Black Cleaver every game. Fuck the flat pen, fuck that garbage. The second someone starts building armor and you have a lead, you're irrelevant. All your flat pen is gone. Like, the champ is, he's so dead on, like, dead set on snowballing. That's his goal. You want to snowball with Graves, and you want to end the game early so people can't come back and build armor, and fuck you. Lethality's great on... Well, here's the weird thing. What's the word? Here's the conundrum. Whatever the fucking word you want to use is. Here's the problem with Graves. He wants to snowball. What are the best stats for snowballing? Lethality. Lethality gives you the most value for gold in the early to mid game. If people aren't bruisers and they're not tanks and they're not stacking armor, lethal blows them up. Right? So you think to yourself, okay, I want to use full lethality Graves. I want to run around the map and snowball. But what if you can't snowball? What if you built lethal items and everyone's, you know, they play safe or they do this or they do that, whatever, you know? And then he gets to mid game and you've got people building armor, right? At that point, you're fucked. One armor item, like Frozen Heart alone, destroys 3 items of lethality Graves. All the armor from that item alone makes it so you have 0 pen. Like, actually. Or like Ninja Tobias also cucks you and all this other shit. And what you need to realize as well is Graves has very inconsistent damage. The distribution of Graves' damage is very inconsistent because his damage is based around how many pellets you can land. If you aren't landing your entire pellet range every time you auto, you are doing less damage than someone right-clicking you. Right? So now you have a character that has inconsistent damage, is not good against tanks. Hold up. Go in. We're good. He's dead. Yeah, so now you have a character that's very bad against tanks with inconsistent damage, not fast enough output, and you need to snowball. So what do? Like, and not to mention the way you deal damage, the way Graves deals damage is so toxic because you have to throw yourself into the fire to get anything out of it, right? And AD carry sits like look at ADTF. Look how I deal damage, right? I sit 9 miles away. I just shoot shit at you, and I do as much damage, if not more, than Graves. You know? Graves has to be in your face. But he wants to snowball. So then you would build damage. Well, what if you snowball and you build Bruiser? Well, now you have less damage, but you snowballed, right? So, like, it's so bizarre. The champ is just bizarre, bro. There's so many weird problems with Graves. Like, again, if you pick him properly and everyone invades and everyone follows Graves on the invade and he's perma-aggressive, it will look broken because it is broken at that point. If everyone is super squishy and he could just deck the fuck out of them before they can even scale or play the game, it will look greasy. But that is also implying everyone plays for you. Everyone plays around you. Graves has main character syndrome problems. Like, that's just the champ. He's like Nidalee, but probably better than Nidalee. He's dead. You could say play Bruiser Graves, but what's the value? Like, does Bruiser actually carry more than building damage? Because realistically, Graves being built like a Bruiser does make sense. It does. You go in, you have to fight. And you could say, well, if you don't want to build Bruiser Graves, then you go Shield Bow and you go Bloodthirster, right? That's like your pseudo-damage Bruiser build, is Bloodthirster Shield Bow. But that doesn't really do damage, I'm not going to lie. Sunderer doesn't really work. Sunderer BTIE does deal good damage until they build tank, and then at that point you're like, okay, well, I need to get LDR, right? Like that, sure, that does damage. That's a fair build, but again, you need to be in their face. You got to be autoing. Like, your prime targets are backliners. Like, you need to just forget about the front line, bro. You want to run to squishies as Graves. That's what you need to do. If you're building full crit, you know, until you get like a IE LDR item, sure, maybe you kill tanks. It's not very efficient because your damage output is too low. Well, rather, it's not low, but it's too slow, right? Slow damage output versus like extremely fast fucking right click. Like, as an example, let's look at this. Xayah is an 80 carry. She will have 10 times the auto attacks than Graves will in a team fight, right? Graves' autos, if point blanked, all pellets, should do more than an auto with Xayah. But the problem is, Xayah has better items. Xayah has the option to kill tanks, to kill squishies, and she shoots you 100 more times than Graves does, right? Like, I know these are different characters, but at the same time, I can't help but think, like, Graves is pretty similar to 80 carries, right? He's a ranged champion who does ranged damage and is based around right-clicking. To me, that sounds like an 80 carry. You know, of course, Graves has more build versatility than Xayah because he's in different roles and he kind of fills different niches within team comps. But, like, man, it's so demoralizing playing Graves. It actually is. It is one of the most demoralizing champs in the game. This Rise is a pussy. I want to make Graves work, but it's kind of hard. Like, I made him work. I don't need to think about it. I made him work. I made Graves work. I made 405 LP Masters playing Graves mid blind pick. That's fucking hard, man. That shit ain't easy. But, like, consistently, it feels impossible. I don't know, man. Every game Black Cleaver. Every game Black Cleaver. I don't fucking care anymore, man. If I play Graves, every game Black Cleaver. I don't give a fuck if you're squishy. I don't care if you got no armor. Fuck that. I'm going Black Cleaver. Build all these fucking lethal items that just lose once they build an armor item. It's like, what? Lethality is not a scam, though. It isn't. It's really good. Lethality is very good. Trinimir's... Bro, Trinimir's a good fucking champ, though. Trinimir can kill anyone he wants. And he's a better champ than Graves, in my opinion. Trinimir's good. People, you do not underestimate Tryndamere, bro. That is a cancer champ. Top lane, mid lane, no, that's good. People play Tryndamere mid and high elo. It's a good pick. It's fine. Dive for free, roam for free. Fucking good lane sustain, like good scaling, good split push. If you're a good Tryndamere, the champ is good. Absolutely. Of course, if you're fighting a Malphite, the champ's not going to look good, but, like, don't pick him in a Malphite. That's it. Graves, like, Tryndamere is good, bro. Tryndamere is good. He's a very good champ. Tryndamere is not mechanics. He's just an understanding of where to be at the right time. And how you can kind of push your limits. That's literally just it. That's Tryndamere. Just like Yi, just like ADTF. All of these champs don't take mechanics. No one's going to sit here and say ADTF takes skill. It takes skill, just not micro skill. Maybe like orb walking, kiting, whatever the fuck you want to call this nonsense. Sure, you know, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you're more of a macro-based champ. Your character's so old, there's no, like, skill expression outside of your brain. You're, like, expressing how smart you are versus how much you can right-click and fucking, like, move your abilities around. I mean, that's what League is, though. League is a game of, like, if you play a strong, broken champ, they're typically non-mechanical characters. The only broken champ I can think of that's completely not mechanical, like, who's actually strong and relevant and can be picked a lot, is Annie. Annie is, like, one of those few characters that is kind of strong for no reason, but takes absolutely no skill. Like Malphite too. That's true. Malphite as well. Malphite be played in every comp. It is. Spamming Annie and Malphite is Freelo. They're consistent characters. They bring something every game that the team can always use. Yeah, it's good. I don't kill him. He's actually too tanky. Okay, he just saved me from Gwen. I need Blade the Rune King before he dies. Jax is turbo cringe. 0 skill champ, but very strong. Jax is just like Annie, bro. Like, he's just like slightly more mechanical Annie, but scaled so incredibly fucking hard. That shit takes no effort. A lot of older champs aren't really good. Like, they're not micro gods. They're more of macro gods. Right? Like, being good on Jax doesn't mean you're good at the game. It probably just means you have an understanding of what you need to do as a player, but not as a champion. Like, sure, if you know your champion really well, it'll look great, but, like, there's no such thing as, like, mechanical outplay with Jax. You don't outplay anyone. Your champion does. There's no skill involved. Like, what the fuck? That's what these kids say. Dude, I love seeing these people who play all these busted-ass, goofy, fucking, like loser-ass champs, and they're like, get outplayed, bro, get outplayed. And they're not even outplaying you. There's nothing to outplay. They sit there doing nothing. It's like me playing ADTF. Like, look at this. Get outplayed, bro. Outplayed, bro. Look at this. Outplayed. Like, not really. The outplay of Twisted Fate would be more of movement. There's no mechanical outplay. Like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here fucking I press W, I stun you, I right-click you. Like, that's not skill. Well, TF's a macro champ. That's all he is. There's no mechanics. It was never that Twisted Fate was exactly hard to play, but he's extremely hard to master because it is all decision-making. Decision-making in League of Legends can be game-winning or game-losing out of, like, literally just anything. One play could lose you the game, one play could win you the game. Decision-making is huge. You can play every champ on such an average level, but your decision-making could be so much better than most players, and because of that, you'll win games. Like, showing up when you need to be there is so much more important than landing a fucking skill shot, bro. You showing up at the right time, getting 2 kills, giving your bot lane 5 CS, any of these small micro gaps within the game will lead to something big if the players actually know how to use it, right? You go bot, you have their 80 carry lose 2 waves, bro, that's game over. If this guy knows what he's doing, that shit is done. Why didn't he automate? He didn't even auto me, bro. What are you doing? Like, you need to... Why do you... Listen to me now. Why do you think there was a Master Yi player who made rank 1? Is it because he's a mechanical god, or he understands the game so well that he knows where he needs to be every single time? Master Yi takes no skill. No skill. No, like, mechanically, he'll take more skill than Twisted Fate, ADTF. I can't argue that. But, like, you need to show up. You need to be... It's an opportunistic win. All League is mostly opportunistic plays, right? You see the enemy making a mistake, you show up. You're at the right time, you're there before they can make that mistake, you fucking capitalize on it because you know they're going to make it. Boom, the game is over. That's what it's about. Being there at the right time, showing up is huge. Are you dead, lady? We don't like snakes. Well, decision-making and champion skill can go hand in hand, but when champions don't have enough skill expression, it's all about decision-making. Like, how can you be skill expressive with Annie? How can you be skill expressive with Twisted Fate? There's nothing to express. Like, with Twisted Fate, sure, there's more of an interest in macro, right? Like, that's what the champ's about. But I'm talking about, like, actual abilities that do a little bit more than, like, I throw Q, I stun you, you know? Twisted Fate's ultimate is his hardest ability, for sure. And it's not that the ultimate's hard to land, it's that you need to figure out what you need to do with your ultimate to give you the best outcome, right? It's an ability that's so, like, you know, I can win the game off this, or I can lose the game off this. I don't use attack move because I've never been a right-click player. I used to play ADTF and I play Gangplank. They're ability-based. Or I play APTF. I think I said AD, but if I didn't. I don't play attack move champs. I've never been an ADC player. Every character I've ever played has been mostly ability-based. And you don't really, like, okay, if you're good at, like, orb walking and all that shit, I'm sure you can really be good at ADTF, but, like, I'm not. I can't do that, and I don't want to learn it.